This is an Explain Everything that was used in a second grade classroom. The students had one-to-one iPads, so for this, I created it ahead of time, and then I went into the saving, and I hit Export To, and I exported it into my Google Drive, and then I shared it with the students in the class, and then they opened it up, and they were Explain Everything, which is connected to their Google Drive. So once we all had it going, I had it projected on the board, and we worked on it together. The students added the word globe themselves, and they added the arrow to point to it, because in second grade they were also working on text features, and labeling a picture is one of those, so we practiced that. Then if we go to the next page, you'll notice that there is a map on this page and then a couple questions at the bottom. When they got this first, it was blank, and we worked on the first question together. How many states are there? And they answered that question on their own, on their own document, and then we also talked about it and put it up on the board. Then what is a capital? They also had to answer that in their own words, and then we all talked about the different ways we answer that. Finally, for the last one, where it says, what states have we been to? They either put a check mark if they had been there, or an X if they had not been there. And then some kids also put a circle for a state if it was a state that they have not been to but would like to go to. And also we talked about how this map doesn't have Alaska or Hawaii on it. So if they had been there, we had them draw a little picture of it and then put a check mark in it. This next slide they all had, and they had to decide on their own at their desk what was circled and what was in the red squares. So they had to look at the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Arctic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and realize that was all oceans, and write the word oceans inside the circle at the bottom. And they had to do the same thing with all the continents. And then we talked about what the answer was and how we figured that out. Then this page was just a review page where they had to match the vocabulary word to the definition. So they did it on their own, and they talked with their people at their table about it, and then we did it together on the board. This next page is just kind of a transition page into landforms. We started to then talk about landforms. So we looked at this picture and talked about different ones that were familiar to us and ones we had not heard of. Then this was just a nice way to show them that we were going to transition to a BrainPop video on landforms. Since I could not embed the actual BrainPop video from the app, I just put this on here so they knew that that's where we're going next. So then we closed out of Educreation or Explain Everything at this point, and then opened up BrainPop and watched the video. And then came back to Explain Everything once the video was done. Then to end it off, they had to draw a line to connect the vocabulary word to the picture. If they did not want to draw a line, I also left the words at the bottom unlocked, so if they wanted to drag it up and match it this way, they were also allowed to do that. Then if you look, I locked the pictures, and then if you even go back to the other slides, I locked all the pictures so nothing could move. Overall, this is a great tool to use in a classroom that's one-to-one iPads. It gives the students a chance to have the lesson, the PowerPoint, the presentation, whatever the teacher would usually have on the board, right down in front of them. The students get to draw their own pictures, move their own things out, move at their own pace. They're not just watching the teacher do it in front of them. They're not waiting a turn to come up and try and do something. Everyone gets to do everything at once. It's also great that if you only got to slide 5 and then you ran out of time, every student can save it where they're at. You can pick it up the next day, you can pick it up later that day, you can pick it up the next week if you need to. It's always there. It's not erased from their whiteboard. It's not a piece of paper shoved into their desk that they forget about. It's saved on their iPad that they keep with them. It's also nice for when the students go home that if a parent wants to know what they did that day in class, they can pull up this Explain Everything. They could go through the slides with their kid, talk about it. If the student's recording over it, they could listen to it the parents could listen to it with their student, their child. And also if they're doing a homework assignment, it really helps the student to have this as a reference at home to look back at and refresh their memory, as opposed to just having handwritten notes. Having the pictures and having their writing in here and having their drawings really adds to how well the students retain the knowledge.